Hello, so we've been talking about colour and the nature of reality and how the reality of a thing is the combination of a percept, the object of perception, and the corresponding concept that applies to that particular percept. And that the reality of the thing is just that, a combination of a perceptual experience and the appropriate concept for that experience. But now, of course, in talking particularly about colour, there are objections that can be quickly made and very simply made that, well, hang on, we don't experience the full reality of the world because our sense organs are only attuned to certain wavelengths of light. And so, for example, above the spectrum, above the blue and violet spectrum, we don't see anything. There's ultraviolet rays which we don't experience. And below the red end of the spectrum, there is nothing. All we experience is some heat, i.e. there's infrared radiation, which we don't perceive as colour. The only thing that we perceive as colour is that narrow band of electromagnetic waves that correlate to the colours of the rainbow. And so it's a common objection to say, well, hang on, human beings don't perceive reality as it actually is because we only see a very narrow band of reality, which is conditioned by our sense organs, and these sense organs have in turn evolved according to processes of evolution, and that therefore at the end of all of this, who are we to say that we are experiencing reality when in fact we're just experiencing a tiny little band, and even then it could be experienced completely different in another creature such as other animals, perhaps bats. What do bats experience when their sonar echo ricochets off trees and buildings? Do they hear noise? Do they construct that noise into a three-dimensional picture of the environment? We can't possibly imagine because we don't we don't have ears that a bat has. Right, so here's Steiner's answer to this very obvious and common objection. So Steiner's going to say, yes, this objection within its proper limits is entirely justified. But if anyone allows this view to confuse him or her in his unprejudiced observation of the relationship of percept and concept as set out in these chapters, then he will bar his own way to any realistic knowledge of man and of the world. To experience the essential nature of thinking, that is, to work one's way into the world of concepts through one's own activity, is an entirely different thing than experiencing something perceptible through one's senses. Whatever senses man might possibly have, not one of them would give him reality if his thinking did not permeate with concepts whatever he perceived by means of that sense organ. And every sense, however constructed, would, if thus permeated by thinking, enable him to live within reality. This question of how man stands in the world of reality is untouched by any speculations he may have as to how the perceptual world might appear to him if he had different sense organs. We must clearly understand that every perceptual picture of the world owes its form to the organization of the perceiving being, and also that the perceptual picture which has been thoroughly permeated by the experience of thinking leads us into reality. What causes us to inquire into our relationship to the world is not the fanciful pictures of how different the world would appear to other than human senses, but the realization that every percept gives us only a part of the reality concealed within it. In other words, that the percept directs us away from its inherent reality. Added to this is the further realization that thinking leads us into that part of the reality which the percept conceals within itself. So if one really meditates on this, one can see that there are kind of two streams of thought going on. There are almost two levels, two stratospheres of thinking happening. There's the one stratosphere which is happening at a sort of scientific level about understanding the world we are experiencing and thinking about why it is that the world appears the way it does. And then there's the stratosphere which is above that happening, which Steiner is talking about and trying to articulate. And the confusion of mixing the higher one with the lower one leads to the type of objection that Steiner is responding to. Looked at from a Barfieldian perspective, these two stratospheres of thought can be seen to correlate with alpha thinking and beta thinking. Steiner is doing beta thinking, and our reaction is to object with alpha thinking style concepts. So if I say that, oh, because I'm colorblind, I don't experience the full reality that other people who can see color experience, that is of a sort of, that's a alpha thinking level of analysis. On the beta level thinking of analysis, we can see that whatever I perceive with my senses, whether I'm colorblind or not, none of it is real unless I can permeate what I'm experiencing with a concept that illuminates the percept picture. And at that higher level, we're talking about a relationship between our innermost activity, our own personal thinking activity, and how it is related, like absolutely inherently, with everything that we experience around us. Like that's plugging oneself into reality in such a real and immediate and experiential way that once one experiences that participation with reality, it's like you can't ever forget it. Anyway, so I hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching.